This is Acton Planning Board meeting, February 19th, 2015. We'll read through the minutes quickly and take a motion.
Okay to me, I move we accept them as presented.
Second.
Everybody have time? All those in favor? Okay. We'll take up Ms. Barrow's schoolhouse issue first, I guess. I would we'll do some discussion pertaining to the proposed revision that we received last time we met.
To go to the definition, historic structures, I think I'd be more comfortable if it just said structures designated as historically significant by an act of the town meeting, period. And kind of leave it to the will of the town as to what's historic and what isn't. And what's important to the town and what isn't important to the town.
Good point. Well, any suggested wording there, Ryan?
Just put a period after meeting.
Yeah. So the whole second clause is gone.
Yeah.
Any comment?
It seems fine. Because we'd still have to kind of put the thing to the town after we, as a planning board, decide whether it's historical or not. I don't know if it's even our.
Well, the town, if it would go to the town to decide if it's historic.
Right, we would just kind of be handing it to the town.
Yeah, there might be some process annually where people could bring forward particular.
They'd still bring the prospective sites to the planning board.
Yeah, but I think ultimately it'd still be the town.
Right,
meeting.
right, but who would be the venue if someone wanted to make their cemetery a historic site, who would they bring it to, do you think?
I think the town first,
Just bring it to the selectmen?
the town meeting.
By petition would be your
I
opportunity to
suppose.
get there.
Oh, okay, as opposed to, okay.
The mechanics of that, you suppose, would be at the same meeting at which point the property or structure, whatever, would be deemed historically significant, would also have a second article which would allow its reconstruction and replacement. So you'd have two articles essentially. One would be...
You would have to if you take out this provision, because we're working in an 18-month window here, and I don't know what the date of that accident is, but presumably we'd have to have two articles within that 16. We'd have to have two articles within that period of 16 months for Dale to proceed forward. Now, that may be what we're talking about here, may not be what we're talking about here, but in order to mechanically make the time frame work, we would have to have two separate articles, I would think.
Would that process hold true for probably any situation that was under that consideration, whereas you, at the one and the same meeting, you decide yes, indeed, it is historically significant, step A, and then step B, this particular structure shall be allowed with the approval of town meeting to be reconstructed or replaced. I mean, wouldn't that expedite the process?
No, I think if the town meeting said it's historical, then you go back to the ordinance and it's exempt. So once
Oh,
it's
I see.
historical, it's exempt, it's not coming from the planning board, it's being built wherever it was.
Okay, so the proposed amendment that Tom has offered us here would be a kind of a generic catch-all, and all you need for its implementation is
Designation.
the consideration of a particular structure. Okay.
I guess I would, myself, I would feel more comfortable if the planning board were involved in that process. If you don't want to be, that's fine, and I don't have a problem with Art's alteration. If you're considering going with this, I'm just telling you how I would like to see you put it together, and I would like the planning board involvement myself. But that's okay. I mean, we don't have to. I understand the importance and the importance of having the town meeting vote for it. And I'm an advocate for that, definitely.
The way I read it, Tom, is that the only time that it's designated as a historic structure is if it is designated by the Acton Chapley Historical Society. Under that circumstance, it's subject to the approval of the planning board. Structures designated as historically significant by act of the town meeting are historically significant, without the planning board being.
That was my intent when I drafted it.
Okay.
My intent changes over time. But, I mean, if you don't want to be part of it, that's fine. Myself, and I'm here to facilitate the process, basically. And whatever works best, you guys. I mean, my objective here is to facilitate the process and move it forward.
Well, is
So
the
that
planning board
discussion-
still gonna be involved in if the, you know, a renovation or a repair or relocation or whatever?
It's exempt.
Well, if they wanted to move it substantially, then they might come to us.
Well,
It's
they have
just
to.
the structure is reconstructed or replaced in its original location.
It's exempt.
Well, I mean, if you look at the three
Criteria.
criteria there, that it's not altered much, it's built, you know, exactly the way it was pretty much in the same spot, so if it was gonna be moved, perhaps they would ask, you know, the planning board, you know, what the,
Yeah. The only issue I see with the town meeting is, one, it's emotions versus the planning board and public safety looking at it, making the decision. And two, you know, say one of the buildings down the fairgrounds burnt down the third week of June, town meeting was just last week, they're gonna have to go 12 months and miss the fair season or something like that
Right.
versus the planning board and the Acton Chapley Society may be able to expedite something in a month or two. So it gives them two options to go, avenues.
So how would you accomplish that?
So,
The expediting the process?
as the petitioners have it written.
yeah, just leave the verbiage as it is with the second clause in there,
Mhm.
so that they have the option of doing one or the other.
Or structures designated as historically significant by the AES Historical Society?
Subject to planning board review, so you got both of them then. What's kind of unique about this is it's not historical until something happens. Otherwise, you should have a list of, we're talking about this, 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 and this. We have the 4 buildings we're looking at. Or is it 40? Or is it 50?
You're looking at hundreds, look around town. How
Yeah.
many houses, old barns, and old structures are built within 75 feet of the road? I mean, I can walk up over Horns or Young's Ridge and back, and I can count houses and barns and stuff that are there.
So every house has the potential to be historical.
If
For that reason,
for that reason,
Yeah.
you want a little bit tighter control on it,
Hmm.
I think.
I think we shouldn't.
I go back to what Kenny said, that word exempt, taking everything out of our hands, it seems, and all based on one particular instance that we're talking about now, perhaps great numbers of buildings, and I'm pretty uncomfortable with that.
French Street, whole thing is historic. I mean, if you, well, it is, unless it doesn't, I mean, if you, has that potential, if you don't have that opportunity to review it, look at it more closely.
This might be one of those cases that is better taken to the town meeting as a petition, rather than asking us to vote on it, because again, one, we're going against what we know we should be voting on, even though it's a creative solution. But two, it is this idea that suddenly we're gonna have 1 billion red schoolhouses, and everything's gonna be a red schoolhouse. I mean, I know I'm exaggerating, but that has that potential. Anybody who has an accident is gonna want some kind of exemption, and that decision has to be made. Since you're even asking that decision itself be made at the whim of the town, maybe this whole thing should be made as a whim of the town, because it takes away our power to be able to create safe roads. You know, if a building is destroyed and it needs to be rebuilt in a different place, then it needs to be built in a different place.
May I respond to that, Tom?
Yeah.
As facilitator in this, I have no problem with what you're suggesting at all. In fact, I am wholly in favor of things moving to the floor of the town meeting through the petition process. What I was hoping for in coming here was to work with you folks and get something that you would be comfortable with, okay? So that's my, and be able to at least not object to strenuously on the floor of the town meeting, or maybe be in favor of. That's my purpose of being here first, okay? I've already told the selectmen that
It's coming.
whatever you guys decide, presuming that Mrs. Barrows wants to move ahead with the petition process, that this will move to the floor on petition of petitioners as opposed to asking the selectmen to put it on the warrant. Simply because that's where I come from. That's what I believe in. So. So suggestions are welcome.
It seems like this has two parts to it. One is the designation as of the structure as being historic. The second part is whether or not thereafter is it necessary for any planning board inclusion into that process, which would be inserted somewhere or other in the line of exception. It might read, I'm just throwing this out as an example, historic structures as defined in this ordinance after planning board review, comma, and which are not within the shoreline zone are exempted from the setback requirements of this article provided there. Is that something you'd be looking for, Ken?
Why are you excluding the shoreline zone? The Girl Scout camps and the Boy Scout camps and the boathouses and the,
Well,
I don't think the state would allow it anyways, but. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the ordinance is drafted around one specific incident, and that's never a good thing.
Right.
right.
It should be wholly looked at and
Agreed.
I think having the Acton shop, the historical society, look at the different buildings, because they're not gonna designate every house as historical. Necessarily, I wouldn't
We're
think so.
historic.
I mean, it seems nice to, they've got a better idea of what's historical than the planning board does on a lot of the cases.
I thought this was a balanced approach. We got the historic thing in it, but it also got the safety thing in it, and that's why I drafted it that way. And of course, the town meeting can override anything anyway, but so that's why that's in there. But you know, that was just my approach to it as a balanced.
I mean, as far as it's a specific issue, and this issue's already been in front of the board's already made a determination, so legally, I'm not sure what the outcome would be of it anyways, if it came back up for review.
I don't understand, Ken, what you said.
The board's already made a determination on this one specific issue.
Right.
Does she get a second bite at the apple?
Well, I think if the town meeting votes to change the ordinance, and you're still within the 18 months,
Yeah, she gets a second turn.
right, it's just automatic, I would assume. And I think that's the assumption on which I developed this.
Let's take this one piece at a time. Does what is the thinking on the definition? Do you want that to stand, or do you want that, does that need changing?
I think Tom's made a pretty good case in my mind, and I mean, and others as well, to have a dual process.
Yeah. The possibility.
Yeah. The second part of, I think that ought to be considered then is, does the planning board, or ought the planning board, or Kenny's office, it seems at the very minimum, Kenny's office would have to be involved in vetting the notion of reconstruction and replacement will be carried out in accordance with the ordinance for these particular projects, right? You know, is there a necessity for the planning board to play a role in that decision? Or just to endorse the notion that it is indeed? Having found that it meets the criteria of a historic structure, you would have a proposal in front of, to put before the board under a conditional use process, I guess, that would delineate how the best possible use or reconstruction or replacement would be applied in this specific case that would come before us.
I would respectfully suggest that you do want this to go through as a conditional use scenario, because you want it recorded, in fact, that the conditions that the ordinance imposes upon reworking of such a structure remained with it.
And we're recognized as being in conformity.
Right, okay? And And therefore, for instance, if we're talking about the schoolhouse, whatever we're talking about, it couldn't be sold and then have somebody coming in saying, this is an existing structure, and now I want to turn it into a store, and, et cetera, and go that route. Once you approve it under this exception, then the conditions under which it's approved have to carry forward with it, and your mechanism for doing that is the conditional use permit. If my understanding is correct, I may be wrong, but.
Can anyone see a nifty way to include that notion within that sentence after exception, colon, under proposed amendment to Article 1.4.11.3, that two-liner there? I think that would be where you plug the notion of planning board inclusion in.
Additionally, then in the definition,
Yeah, because some way or not, or other, if just following this line of thought, you need to designate, either it's just going to be stated as a conditional use process, and it would be given that it would be subject to planning board review.
I think the article's under planning board review anyways, the 1.4 or 11.3, is best practical location. Replacement, reconstruction.
So we, given the terms of sentence 1, then it would automatically trigger planning board review? Or should be, to be safe, spelled out there, just to notify the applicants that there are some hurdles involved in this. It's not just, they're not just skating to the,
Yeah, it's proposed to be added to the section that talks about reconstruction or replacement, which gives the planning board the authority for best practical locations.
so does anything else need to be plugged in there?
I wouldn't think so.
Any thoughts?
Can I ask about the 50%, how that's determined?
Dr. Paul?
If it's clearly, in this case, it was a building assessed at, I think it was $78,000, and it was $70-something thousand worth of damage. Clearly, that exceeds it. But the definition for it is removal of it. And sometimes when you've got a boathouse and they want to repair this, this, and this, you're really teetering on it. We have them get a appraiser, real estate appraiser, and as they're removing stuff, similar to the best practical location we looked on Great East Lake where they didn't want to move it back, so they're in the process to repair it in place, they're going to have a appraiser work with them, and when they've removed 50% of it, sills, windows, doors, roof, the appraiser stops them at 49%, and they come back another calendar year and do it again.
What about in the case of an accident or fire or something like that, where there's some damage that happens? Is the 50% determined by insurance, or is it
Real estate appraiser would be the best
real
one.
estate appraisal?
Yeah. To know what's been removed, because if you simply look at how much it costs to fix it, somebody could be putting full faucets and high-end stuff, and somebody could be doing, so you'd have two different, so you look at what's being removed.
Well, as it stands then, does this thing have legs? Can we need to tweak it at all, or can we make a motion as to how we want to proceed with it?
I think it's, meets the intention of the individuals that have proposed it.
We have, as you mentioned, already voted on Ms. Barrow's specific request. So we're dealing essentially now with a just an endorsement more or less of this language and maybe giving the petitioners a sense of how we would wish they proceed, which is totally there's no binding, but is an advisory position maybe.
Well, it's not a petitioned ordinance yet. If
Right.
the planning board votes in favor of this, I think it's a planning board ordinance, and you guys are gonna have to stand by it at your public hearing. Or you
But
don't
it's
vote
not for
it.
January 30th, we can't submit it.
This was already submitted prior to the deadline,
Okay.
not by the board, but the selectmen had it.
And they're gonna,
Put it on the warrant? I would think if they did, there'd be enough petition individuals on it to put it on themselves.
There was already one petition circulated with this, and you had half the required number. What's required now, 50 some odd? I don't remember what
It
that,
was 104 before the previous election.
104 before the previous election, okay.
I mean, it's most
So-
recent election, I guess I should say.
So, I mean, Dale, you had, what, 20, how
I
many?
have 26.
26 petitions just in the neighborhood, so, you know, I don't think this is gonna be an issue of whether the petition survives. I think it's going to get there one way or the other. But as I said, I'm here as a facilitator and because I'm interested in your people's views on this. I don't wanna walk into the town meeting with a petition and something cold and not have anticipated something.
well, then, the role of the planning board is, as I would see it, would be, we would consider this as a proposed ordinance, and we need not make a motion on it now until such time as it was considered in a public hearing as it was presented by the petitioners to the selectmen. Is that?
I don't know what you're saying.
We have no role in this.
Right,
Until such
there,
time.
that's what I.
Well, you can, but if you don't want to, you have two possible roles. You have the role of endorsing it and having it placed on the warrant that way. Or you have the role of helping the petitioners come together with something that you folks can work with comfortably. If you're not going to, frankly, if you're not going to be satisfied with it as a committee, I'm uncomfortable moving forward with it. That's just my position because I think this belongs in your court in large measure. But also, as playing the role of facilitator, probably would move forward in any case. I don't know.
Well, there has been the concern raised that this is spot zone. In order to remove that charge being leveled at the planning board, why could we not say to Ms. Barrows this evening, we feel this language that is in front of us need not be altered to accomplish the task which you're seeking to achieve, but we will consider endorsing this when it appears before us in a public hearing with a yea or nay vote of endorsement.
And you would prefer that
Because I want to make the
first part of that. That's what I want to get.
I want to pull apart the notion of it being, I want to make it a more generically applied situation rather than looking like we are, and in fact, if we were to vote and accept this now without the endorsement of a petition, without that process having been completed, I would feel on safer ground considering this after it was put on the warrant by the petitioners, thereby making it, in my mind anyway, a more generic bit of work, not so much an issue of spot zoning, and we would merely say tonight, if we chose, this language achieves the purpose that you set out to convince us is necessary, and from our viewpoint, it need not be altered to be legally workable, as far as we can see.
And administratively,
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping we work toward that.
So you're looking for an endorsement from us, one
Well,
way or
I guess,
another, we can put it to rest. And then the petitioners can decide
And then the-
how they want to do it regardless of which way we go.
Yeah, so we say nothing tonight, they go on and do their business, and they can, who puts on they put on their own public hearing?
Petitioners.
And then we can show up.
no,
at
the
public hearing,
selectmen put on a public
Okay.
hearing. We present a
And then we
petition
can
to
show
the
up and
petitioner.
suggest things if we want,
Yeah, we would
As
merely,
individuals.
as individuals.
we would
as
merely
individuals.
recommend, or not recommend, the proposed warrant article as a board.
Right.
Because it is essentially a zoning ordinance change. That's our purview. So at that time, I guess we would make a vote, so either yea or nay, that this is a good process to move forward with.
Why would we, because it's in the zoning book,
Yeah,
would be the only reason that we would go forward with a vote down the road.
yeah, in my understanding anyway.
Well, yeah, but our vote would be symbolic, right?
It would-
We're
it would
not
be-
like the, what's that other committee that says yes?
Ought to pass.
Ought to pass,
Ought
yeah.
not to pass.
Warrant finance.
We don't have that authority, so we can't
You
really
know,
do
it's just
it.
a
So
recommendation.
we can cheerlead, that's.
Right.
that's
And it has been the custom in warrant articles that do pertain to zoning issues, particularly those that have come before that are of planning board device, that the selectmen have allowed on the warrant, planning board recommends or not recommend.
I would think if the planning board doesn't act on it and support it tonight, then you're out of the loop.
I would say so too.
I think you're all done. I think the petitioner brings it to the selectmen, has their own public hearings, and you go from there. But if you voted to support it, then it's a planning board article, and you'd hold the public hearings via the planning board.
Yeah,
That wouldn't prohibit the petition process. It might make it unnecessary, but I think for everybody's well-being, that the petition process is a very, very healthy process to go through.
I wish you the best of luck.
It's not really that hard.
well,
Yeah.
my synapses are closing up on this one. I need a motion or something. We move forward.
I move that we allow this group to get a petition and take it, or not even allow, that's not the word. I move that we don't vote on this.
Encourage, maybe?
All we have to
Well,
do is.
we've encouraged.
Yeah, we looked over the wording and we think it would mesh into the zoning pretty easily, and
I think if the board wasn't in favor of it, it would help the petitioner if you just tabled it and didn't vote. Because if you voted and voted all no, that shows a sign there, that's for sure. I mean, ideally, the word historic just needed to be added to the scope of things that you guys look at in best possible location, the size of the lot, the slope of it, the potential for soil erosion, other structures on the property, and the word historic put in there. It would have allowed you guys to look at that as a possibility. In this case, it may not have made a difference to you, or it may have. I mean, that would be a simpler way if the board was looking to proceed.
So my motion is that we do not vote on this.
And
Please don't have to.
just to make sure I understand, is it proposed that when the public hearing is held on this, at the request of the petitioners, being held by the selectmen, the public hearing, at that time, would we recommend passage or not?
I don't think we have the authority
I
at
don't
that
think it's,
point.
yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Okay,
I mean, we can still all go as,
as,
Individuals to speak?
Yeah.
And we had hoped that you would.
I mean, if we make a motion tonight
the
and
intent
pass
is,
it or defeat it,
intent is clear.
exactly.
Yeah.
If there's no motion, then let's just move on.
Well, the motion is to,
to not vote on this.
okay.
Does that need to be voted on?
It's a hard one.
A positive, I understand,
All
I positively charged negative.
Okay,
Just motion to
Sorry.
table, just motion to table, that's all.
uh,
And await the outcome of the petition process, if that's what you are most comfortable with. And I certainly respect your right to do that and the wisdom of doing that, political wisdom of doing that.
anyone want to, you want to refine that, just use the word table or chair or anything?
Oh, you can word it any way you want, as long as we are done with it.
Motion before us then is to table this issue.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Thank you, folks.
All right, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you for coming in.
Busted.
Busted.
Sure, sure.
Of course, we're talking,
Oh, so yeah, so you need some.
Thank you, folks.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Yes. Would you like to sign that? Sure. Come right out.
I am actually looking for a vote to table this and take no action.
We're good at that.
What they had under that existing camp was a wood-framed first-story foundation. And about 10 years ago, somebody put a block foundation underneath it without permits, so no best possible location. New owner came along to get it, and now, do you guys have the one with the foundation underneath it? Yeah, so it looked, it looked very similar, but it was a wood foundation. So, they want to rip down the top story and reuse the existing foundation, which means it's relocated to the best practical location. There may be a foot or two to move it, there's not more than 3 or 4, and really without a site walk or the snow being melted, there's no real way to table it. It's straight hill right behind the whole thing. I'll show you there. So it's
It
really,
goes up that way.
Yeah, retaining wall right there.
where do you see the stick?
I mean, there's a good possibility that there isn't any room to move it back, and they might just get lucky that they won't have to relocate it. So their intention is to rip down the house and reuse the foundation, but again, there was no permits issued for the foundation, so it kind of exempts best practical location. So I would say, if the board agrees, we go out and do a site walk, we look at it like the foundation isn't there. If it can move back a foot or two, it moves back, and they take the foundation out and do it again.
And you're suggesting we do that in the springtime?
That's what I would say, let the snow melt and we would take a look at it. They wanted me to bring it to the board and start the process, but the more I think about it, I think let the snow melt.
And how close did you say the house is to the lake?
Oh, 10, 15 feet at the most.
Oh, so it's close.
Oh, it's right on, yeah. So, I mean, if you were able to move it back just 2 feet, you could be moving it to, it's 6 feet from the water.
They sweat, really.
Have you looked at the existing foundation or what the condition of it is?
No, I told them, the block is in fairly good shape, but I told them we'd have to look at some frost walls and a few other things as far as building code issues. But that would really determine if the planning board agreed that it was in the right spot. If you guys said it's not in the right spot, then they would have to look at other avenues. Either they leave it as is, or when they take the camp down, they take out the foundation as well.
So you don't even know if this thing goes down
Full of
4 feet or
frost?
6 feet?
No, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But there's a few exemptions they could do to make it code compliant. The big issue really is if there's room to move it back.
And the retaining wall's in good shape,
The one behind it?
the one between the camp and the lake.
Oh, on the front side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you think that would could stay there during construction or?
Oh, yeah.
Correctly.
Yeah.
Sure,
What,
probably
is
is,
it
because it's only 6
draining right
feet.
down the house and out that
How
hole?
they gonna, how steep is
Oh,
it,
yeah.
they're gonna get
Probably
down
right
there,
into the water.
knock down
Take that now.
foundation?
I've seen that before.
You know that?
Foundation.
To take the house off, you just use a crane or something like that to take out the stuff. Otherwise, when you go up to get something, you bring it with you. When you come down, you lug it up, lug it down. It's probably 60 stairs.
So there's no driveway to
I don't think they do
There's a
any
little bit
construction
in the
there.
backside, but ideally, I'd be taking it across the ice in the winter. If you have the time to do it.
So when they go to pour a new foundation, if we said move it back, how are they gonna get the cement truck in there?
You'd use a pump, crane, crank it down through.
Yeah,
How close can,
and we could have that right in the conditions of the best possible location.
No alteration of the land, either that or revegetation or something like that, but they wouldn't want to bring a truck down in there. There's no practical way, that's for sure.
where's it located?
Off of 13th, Susan Avenue. Yeah, it's on 13th Street. So as you're up there, it's that big hardback that just drops down on both sides.
So it's right near another house we looked at.
Ken, how would 30% work on this?
They would just expand into the upstairs. And they knew this was an issue when they bought it. When they came in, we looked at the files, we came up that there was an issue there. They purchased it anyways, knowing there was an issue. But their intention is to make the water quality as best as practical by turning the roofs and doing improvements on the water. So they're not the ones that did something wrong, they just purchased something that had issues, so.
So they could get 30% on the second floor, is that?
Yeah,
We've got gravel all around the house, and then we've got one drain that I've never seen water come out of, but it's just a case drain that goes.
Is this a case where you're looking at the amount of disturbance potentially,
Goes
like
down to a gully.
Right.
outweighing it in the back
As
foot
it
or
goes
two?
down
Yeah.
from there.
yeah.
Okay, so those- just looking at the-
You may be able to leave the foundation where it is and cantilever the back of the house back or something too.
So in the back here, where this wall is that a parking area?
It's quite a ways back, the parking area. Probably another 25, 30 feet back there to get to that parking area. So my thoughts were to table till the snow melts.
June?
I'll make a motion that
If the
we
snow
ask
happens.
Ken suggests.
My friend up at Aroostook County says, yeah, we had a nice summer up here last year, it was on a Thursday.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion taken.
Thank you.
Agenda for next meeting, Brenda, what's the date of our next meeting?
March.
Do the math on that.
I'll tell you in a second. Hold on.
Look at the calendar.
Fifth.
March 5th.
3/5?
Right, that would be, right.
And should we be considering a vote on the selectmen's proposal at that time?
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, it's out of our hands.
They're gonna present it at
No,
town meeting.
well, but we want to, does the board feel that there ought to be a planning board recommendation attached to that on the warrant.
Are we gonna have our own,
We've already voted on our own proposal, and I thought unanimously accepted that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully that also will have a recommendation on it in the warrant. I think that's customary, am I right? With articles pertaining to
No,
zoning.
warrant and finance.
well, I
can do
think
that.
Well, the selectmen would put a recommendation for our article, wouldn't they?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. There usually is three different, you know.
Well, it would be, it has been done in the past, I know that.
Yeah,
Only on articles that pertain to land use plan, you know, the ordinance. The ordinances are very, so I would suggest that we would either endorse it or not endorse it, and hopefully that opinion would be expressed in the vehicle of the warrant to the voters.
Don't you think we should wait for the planning, for the hearing, so we can actually get some real information? Because
You know, you didn't get the information for that, did you?
Well, wasn't it the case that they're not gonna change it anyway? As I heard it, right?
No, they're gonna go with what they propose. With this,
yeah.
it's
So,
gonna be presented to town meeting, there's be a hearing.
yeah,
But like any other hearing, if somebody comes up with something that is, let's say, constructive, you know, you as a group, like we do in ours, might go back and reword something.
But then there'll be debate on the floor of town meeting.
well, as I understood it, Ted was saying the wording of this, as well as the wording of ours, cannot be altered at this time.
That's what he said, yeah.
So what's the purpose of having a public hearing then?
Just to bring a comment that could be
So they
taken
know
into
how-
account at the time of town meeting, I guess. People could have
But no input,
all the,
really.
multiple views in their mind when they go to vote on the thing.
Educate the voter.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, definitely serves that purpose.
That's normally not the case. I mean, we like to, when we devise a
Start the
article for
process.
warrant,
Yeah.
we, by tradition, have done just as you suggested, leave our final thinking on this to be inclusive of public comment. But
Makes sense.
that has not been permitted in this case. Well, I would just consider that
Just see
we
where comments come up.
think through the proposal that we heard explained a little bit this evening, and maybe be ready to make a recommendation as to its benefit or lack thereof for the towns. Okay. Anybody got anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned?